Welcome to 10-Minute Mortgage. I am your mortgage lender, Rob, and this is a live and recorded video that I do every so often where I share real estate news, tips, mortgage hacks, and everything that's relevant to our industry in 10 minutes or less. If you're catching this on the replay and you're not on my email list, you can sign up in the link in the description. There's a Q&A at the end, so drop your questions whenever along the way. We can go live if we need to as well, depending how many of us get on here. And yeah, that's that. So let's get started today. Topic for today is the new CalHFA Access program, and then we'll go over a very quick rate update. So CalHFA Access, or CalHFA as we call it. So first off, a quick overview. What is CalHFA? CalHFA is a down payment assistance program available in California. And an example of how this works is I've got a FHA example on the screen, then I'll add a CalHFA example. So assuming you buy a house for a $500,000 purchase price, normally, you'll put a down payment. For FHA, it's 3.5%. Closing costs, 3% is pretty typical, so $15,000. That means your net out of pocket, if you're just buying a regular down payment closing cost, net out of pocket, $32,500. The way CalHFA works is you have a assistance program for the down payment, which brings your down payment to zero. Closing costs do increase because these programs have higher fees associated with them, but there is a closing cost assistance loan. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the access assistance for closing costs. And that brings the total out of pocket to $13,707. And the benefit of moving your down payment to zero and even adding more closing costs is sellers can pay closing costs. So even though there is still some money due at closing, FHA allows a pretty large seller credit up to 6% of your sales price. So in many cases, you can get these programs to almost zero or actually zero out of pocket. So the problem with CalHFA in the past was interest rates. So we did a lot of these prior to the rate hikes in 2022 as a comparison. So I've got a few examples here. So on a standard FHA loan as of rates, when I pulled these on Friday, an FHA rate was 6.125%. Adding the CalHFA My Home, which is only the down payment assistance, raised the rate to 6.375%. Not that big of a deal. But the old CalHFA Zip, which was the closing cost assistance, now that raises the rate to 7.125%. And that's where we run into problems because that rate is in many cases unaffordable for most people. And back in 2020 and 19 and older, when rates were 3.5%, the CalHFA rate with the Zip only went up to 4.5%. It was manageable given rates and prices at the time. But we haven't used this program much because of this. So Access comes in and is hopefully going to alleviate some of the problems with this. So the CalHFA Access is going to give a little more assistance at a lower interest rate. Right now, the rate is only 6.75%, which I think is manageable for many people. And they're going to get a little more assistance around, this is again at $500,000, but they're going to get a total of almost $30,000 of assistance instead of just $27,000 of assistance. So it's a super helpful program. It's very, very similar to CalHFA in that it's still the same main requirements. It is a CalHFA loan, just with a lower rate and higher closing cost assistance. Same first-time buyer requirement, meaning you've not had an ownership interest in a principal residence over the last 3 years. So owning a property older than that, or even owning a rental property or a house you never lived in, you're still a first-time buyer and can use this program. Same credit score requirements, 640. Same income limits. This varies across different California counties, but usually they range between $174,000 per year to $236,000 per year. That means as long as you make under your county's income limit, you can use this program. They still close in the same time, 30 days or less in most cases, and lots of properties are eligible. Houses, condos, townhomes, manufactured. So that's everything. I'm going to do a quick rate update. In the meantime, if there's any questions, drop a comment in the chat, or if you want to just unmute yourself, just drop a comment there, and I'll call you on there for that. A quick rate update. This is a 10-month review in the chart in the corner, but this is a general where rates are at right now. Conventional, FHA, VA. Conventional 6.75%, FHA and VA closer to 6%. And I wanted to highlight kind of what's happened over the last 10 months. So as we know, this is a 10-month chart from about June. So now rates, they were going down a lot last year in anticipation of the Fed cutting rates. That happened on September 19th. The Fed cut rates right here. And then weirdly, rates have been rising or had been rising through the following about 4 months, though down to 6.125% and then up to 7.25%. This is early in January. So we saw rates peak again in January. However, all of 2025, we've seen rates go down. For the last 2 months, they've dropped down from about 7.25% to about 6.75%. And that's where they're at today. They're kind of trading sideways for the last month. So what I think is going to probably happen is, right now, we're waiting to see what happens with tariffs. Inflation is always a big talk. So it seems like rates are treading sideways. We do expect the Fed to still cut rates this year, and that should bring mortgage rates down. So I think it's reasonable to see rates keep falling. We just don't know the timeline. But I think it's a safe bet at this point to expect rates to slowly fall over the next few years. So that's everything for today. If there's any questions, let me check our chat. Let's see here. Cool. I don't see anything. So thank you for attending. And if you're catching the live replay, if any questions or comments, drop them in the chat below.